G'day everyone, Jason Nunn from Fisherman's Warehouse Marine, Sweet Street at Warners Bay, your Newcastle Honda marine dealer. And guys, we're in the office today, being Friday. We even give it away yesterday. Absolutely horrible. Still blowing probably 25 to 30 at Nobbies as we speak, and certainly Nor ahead around about that 25 knots of southeast winds. And that's exactly what's going to happen over the next few days. It's going to back off tomorrow, probably. I still think probably 20 knots, maybe a little bit less later in the afternoon. But these seas that have been created from this big pressure system that's up to the north, particularly Coffs Harbour north if you're travelling up the coast, around about 2.5 metres of swell over the next few days. And it really doesn't back off the swell at least until Monday, Tuesday. And there's another southerly due on Wednesday. So this up and down effect throughout spring now, we're seeing, pressure systems, southerlies, rain coming in from the northwest. We didn't get a whole lot of rain yesterday, even if it seemed that we did because of probably the strength of the wind. But I think Newcastle are sort of saying 15 mil. Areas may have got more. Sydney got double, but definitely up on the mid-north coast and further up to the border, there's a lot more rain physically happening. So first things first, rock fishing, I would think against going rock fishing this weekend, so definitely a warning there. Maybe some of those protected areas inside the breakwaters, inside Newcastle Harbour, no doubt inside Port Stephens and inside the channel at Swansea. Yes, you'll get away with maybe the baths around Nobbies for a few Ludrick as well on that swell. And you've got some tides this weekend. Low tide, 11 o'clock tomorrow. High tide, 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. And it's not a bad tide either tomorrow either. It's around about 1.6 metres. So a really good afternoon tide, and that may be a little bit better as that wind starts to back off. Some really good reports. So Brad Dalton just sent me through a report as well. Some good kings, got a amberjack as well down on the Texas, and my ever reliable friend and co-worker Jason down there as well. His son was down on the Texas last week, just on the weekend. They got some beautiful kings and some fish up to around about 93 to 94 centimetres in length. So some really good kings down on the Texas. Jigging seems to be the better way to go, more so than live baiting. But there's a bit of a mixture, the odd bonito mixed in with them. I don't think you're going to get there this week, but once the weather starts to abate, and let's hope that it starts to abate as we move into the long weekend next weekend, we start to have the ability to get down there, because there's a lot of kings and they've really fired up over the last couple of weeks down Texas and further south towards Terry. Well, no doubt there'll be some good snapper on the farm once it dies down, as will the inshore fishery. And prior to the blow, like last weekend, for example, a lot of nice snapper still getting caught along the coast. So it was great to see that that a few more, Broughton Island up that way. And I spoke to John Hanley. They got a few decent reds up to about 55 up off Broughton on Saturday as well. So they're right coastally, but after a big blow like this and that bit of rain, I think that that tide will move around late next week. And if you've got the opportunity to do a midweeker, definitely worth a go. And most of the guys are only really catching snapper. There wasn't much bycatch. I know my good mate Lucas Stansfield had an opportunity to duck out off Newcastle last week as well, and only reds. It went through the normal procedure, the dump, back in Bar Beach, those sorts, back down to Merriweather, just reds. So there's a lot of squire and everything in the system, as there will be in the lake. And we've seen that variety of catch rate happening in the lake. Mulloway, definitely, but certainly flathead, brim, and of course our lake reds that have been around. That bit of a swell out there at the moment will force quite a few fish, and I think the estuary itself is where it's going to be. A lot more fish in the estuary and a lot more fish coming in. So definitely within Salts Bay on that high tide, I reckon brim, trevally, definitely a few flathead and the odd tailor, certainly in Salts Bay tomorrow afternoon, and even this afternoon, if the wind does abate, Salts Bay won't be too bad at all. There's been some really good Ludrick getting caught. I spoke to a good mate of mine, Steve Eyre. He fished down near the RSL late last week. Bag limit catches of Ludrick happening at the moment. But you don't have to just use greenwood, and greenwood's been a little bit difficult to get, even though you've got to go to the ocean rock platforms, which is probably not advisable with the swell that's around at the moment, but just bread. So Steve was using bread, chasing a few mullet and brim, and bagged out on Ludrick up to 45 centimetres. So there's some really good Ludrick still in Swansea Channel. And Paul Shepherd, the same sort of deal. Daybreak down there near the RSL, and some really nice ludrick through the system. So the shore-based angler, you don't necessarily have to have a boat, is doing very, very well. There's the odd king. I know that a lot of guys look like they were live baiting, probably live squid at the bridge midweek when we went across doing a sight job, but didn't see much action there when we come through, and I do think that'll increase as we start to get through October into November. Now, with that little bit of rain, as I say, it wasn't a lot, but with tomorrow night being Saturday night is 10 nights after the full moon. I know it may be a little bit premature with a prawn run, but there may be just enough prawns coming out of the system to get a bit of bait. There's definitely going to be a few prawns on the edges, but if you're feeling up to it, it may be worth having a look on that run-out tide in the channel to get a little bit of live bait. There are some good reports. There's already a few whiting starting to move back in on the flats. I was talking to Hilly through the week. A few brim around, yes, but he did make note of some very big whiting on those flats. So live prawns and or tube worms will be perfect. And of course, I got a contact by Les from Aquabait last week. New Age Tackle down at Swansea are going to be doing tube worms again, and I'm pretty sure they've got some more in this week. So there's a couple of the guys now, tube worms to you online, and obviously New Age down at Swansea if you want to get some tube worms. And they are the pick for some of these big whiting and brim that are around. Or, again, go and chase a few of these live prawns. Flathead have started to spread out, guys. There's some nice flathead getting caught in the shallows down the southern end of the lake, but in and around the channel. The channel itself on that run-out tide, 11 o'clock low, ideal opportunity. If that sou'easters, that'll actually hold the drift up as you're coming back down the channel. There's some really nice fish in the channel itself, even Belmont Bay, and you're going to be looking for some of those protected based areas around that you can get away from that little bit of a sou'easter. Few of the mullaways still there, but as that moon starts to wane back a little bit, you'll probably see them drop off a little bit, and I think in the next couple of weeks on our next moon phase, they'll then start to pick back up again. Still a few salmon in the channel, no doubt. The normal haunts, definitely a few up the entrance to near Lucy's, and there are a few still in the Air Force channel, but a lot of fish in the lake. Certainly a lot of small tailor, but some really big salmon, mixing those 2.5, sort of 3 kilo ones. Definitely quite a bit out. There's a bit of variety, guys. Again, you're just not going to be breaking any records this weekend. A little bit of persistence is what's in order. Let's hope the weather starts to fine it for next weekend, being the long weekend. School holidays starts obviously today, so all the school kids are on for a couple of weeks holidays. Might be a bit crowded through the week, but enjoy yourselves, and we'll talk to you next week.